year 1453, one city stood between two worlds, Constantinople. For more than 1,000 years, it had been the beating heart of an empire, the last true remnant of Rome, a city that had outlived kings, wars, and entire civilizations. While others rose and fell, Constantinople endured. Its walls were not just stone, they were legend. Massive, triple-layered defenses stretching for kilometers. Built to withstand anything. Armies had come before. Powerful ones. Determined ones. But every single time, they failed. The city remained, untouched, unbroken, almost eternal. But history has a way of changing when no one expects it. Because this time, the threat was different. To the east, a new power was rising. Faster, stronger, hungrier than anything Constantinople had faced before. At its head was a young ruler, Mehmed II, only 21 years old, but already feared, not because of his age, but because of his mind. He was not like the rulers before him. He did not rely only on soldiers or numbers. He studied, he observed, he planned. For years, he had been thinking about one thing, one goal, one obsession. Constantinople. He didn't just want to conquer it, he needed to, because he understood something deeper. As long as the city stood, it was a symbol, a reminder that the old world still existed, and to build a new empire, that symbol had to fall. So, he began to prepare. Not just an army, but something far more dangerous, a revolution in warfare. Cannons. Not small ones. Not ordinary siege weapons, but massive, earth-shaking machines designed for one purpose: to destroy what had never been destroyed. The walls of Constantinople. These cannons were unlike anything seen before, forged with incredible effort, transported with difficulty. But once in position, they changed everything. Each shot echoed like thunder. Each impact shook the ground beneath the city. Stone that had stood for centuries began to crack. Slowly, then faster. Meanwhile, inside Constantinople, the situation was far more fragile than it appeared. The city was no longer what it once had been. Its population had declined, its resources were limited, and its army was small, too small. There were not enough soldiers to guard every wall, not enough weapons to match the enemy outside. And worst of all, help was uncertain. Western Europe had promised support, but promises are easy to make and slow to arrive. Days passed, then weeks, but no massive army came to save them. Inside the city, people began to understand the truth. They were alone, completely alone. At the center of it all stood the emperor, Constantine XI Palaiologos. He knew the reality better than anyone. He knew the numbers. He knew the strength of the enemy. He knew the walls might not hold. And yet, he refused to leave. He refused to surrender. Because for him, this was not just about survival. It was about legacy, about honor, about history itself. If Constantinople fell, it would not just be the fall of a city. It would be the end of an empire that had lasted over 1,000 years. The final chapter of Rome. So he made his choice. To stand. To fight. No matter the cost. Soldiers took their positions along the massive walls. Watching. Waiting. Listening to the distant thunder of cannons. Citizens gathered what little supplies they had. Food, water, anything that could help them survive what was coming. Churches filled with people, praying, not for victory, but for mercy. Because deep down, everyone felt it. Something had changed. This was not like the sieges before. This was not something they could simply endure. This time, the enemy was prepared. The weapons were stronger. The numbers were greater. And hope was fading. Outside the walls, the Ottoman army grew larger every day. Tents stretching across the land. Fires burning through the night. Thousands of soldiers waiting for one moment. The moment when the walls would finally break. And inside the city, a silence began to settle. Heavy, uncomfortable, like the calm before a storm. Because everyone knew it was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. The siege did not begin with silence. It began with thunder, a sound so powerful. It did not just echo across the land. It shook the very foundations of Constantinople. The cannons had arrived. At first, the people inside the city did not fully understand what they were hearing. a distant boom, then another, and another. But soon, the truth became impossible to ignore. This was not ordinary warfare. This was something new, something terrifying. Outside the walls, the Ottoman army had taken position. Thousands of soldiers, organized, prepared, waiting for the signal, and at the center of it all stood the massive cannons, each one aimed directly at the legendary walls, each one ready to do what no army before had managed to achieve: destroy them. When the first cannon fired, time seemed to stop. The explosion ripped through the air, a deep, violent roar that sent shockwaves through the city. Moments later, impact, stone shattered, dust filled the sky, and for the first time in centuries, the walls of Constantinople were damaged. Not broken, but no longer untouchable. Inside the city, fear began to spread. Not panic, not yet, but something close. Because those walls were more than protection. They were belief. And now, that belief was cracking. Day after day, the bombardment continued. Relentless, unforgiving. The Ottomans did not rush. They did not waste energy. They waited. They calculated. They fired again, and again, and again. Each Udar weakening the defenses. Each moment bringing the city closer to collapse. Inside, the defenders fought back. Archers took position. Soldiers repaired the walls at night, filling cracks, rebuilding what had been destroyed, working without rest, because they knew, if they stopped, even for a moment, it would be over. At night, the city did not sleep. Torches lit the walls. Men worked in silence, the sound of tools against stone, the quiet breathing of exhaustion, and always, in the distance, the looming presence of the enemy, watching, waiting. But Mehmed was not only attacking with force. He was thinking, adapting, looking for another way in, because he understood something critical. If the walls did not fall fast enough, he needed a second plan. And that plan was impossible. At least, it should have been. The Golden Horn, a massive water barrier protecting one side of the city, blocked by a giant chain. No enemy fleet had ever passed it. It was considered secure, untouchable, but Mehmed saw it differently. If he could not break through the chain, he would go around it. What happened next shocked everyone. Under the cover of darkness, the Ottomans began to move their ships, not through the water, but over land. Hundreds of men worked together, dragging ships across greased logs, over hills, through terrain no navy had ever crossed. It was slow, difficult, unbelievable, but it worked. By morning, the impossible had become reality. Ottoman ships appeared inside the Golden Horn, behind the defenses, inside what was supposed to be a safe zone. Inside the city, shock turned into something deeper. Fear, real fear, because now, the enemy was not just outside the walls. It was behind them, surrounding them, closing in. The defenders were stretched thinner than ever. Forces had to be divided, attention split, energy drained, and still, the cannons did not stop. Each day, the walls grew weaker. Each night, the repairs became harder. Food supplies began to run low. Exhaustion took over. Men who had once stood strong, now struggled to even remain awake. But still, they did not surrender, because surrender meant something worse than death. It meant the end of everything they had fought for. And so, they held on. For one more day, then another, but time was not on their side, because outside the walls, the Ottoman army was not weakening. It was growing stronger, more confident, more aggressive. They could feel it. The end was near. And inside Constantinople, everyone could feel it too. Not as a thought, not as a fear, but as a certainty. The walls would not hold forever. And when they finally broke, there would be no escape, only the final battle. By the final days of May 1453, there was no illusion left, no hope of rescue, no belief that the walls would hold. Constantinople was no longer preparing for survival. It was preparing for the end. Inside the city, the atmosphere had changed completely. The streets were quieter, not because people felt safe, but because they understood what was coming. The constant thunder of cannons had become normal, a dark rhythm that never stopped. Day and night, it continued, each impact breaking more than just stone. It broke spirit, it broke certainty, and slowly, it broke the last defenses of the city. The walls, once believed to be unbreakable, were now heavily damaged. Cracks had turned into openings. Openings had turned into weak points. And the defenders knew. The final assault was near. On the night before the attack, something unusual happened. The city gathered, not for war, but for prayer. Churches filled with people, soldiers, citizens, men, women, and children, all standing together for one last time. There was no division anymore, no politics, no arguments, only one shared understanding. This could be their final night alive. Candles lit the darkness, voices whispered prayers. Some asked for victory, others simply asked for peace, because deep down, everyone knew morning would bring something irreversible. Meanwhile, outside the walls, the Ottoman army was preparing. This would not be another attack. This would be the attack, the final push. Orders were given, positions assigned, weapons prepared, thousands of soldiers ready to move at once. And at the center of it all, Mehmed II, calm, focused, certain. He knew this moment would define him. If he succeeded, he would not just be a ruler. He would become a conqueror remembered for centuries. As the night slowly turned into morning, the silence broke. The attack began. Waves of soldiers moved toward the walls. First, the irregular troops, sent to weaken the defenses. Then, more organized forces. Then, elite units. Each wave stronger than the last. Each one pushing further. Fighting was brutal, close, chaotic. The defenders resisted with everything they had. Arrows filled the air. Swords clashed. Men fell on both sides. Again and again, the attackers were pushed back, but they did not stop. They could not stop, because this time, there would be no retreat. At one of the weakest points in the wall, the pressure became unbearable. The defenses began to collapse. Not all at once, but enough for something to happen. Something small, but decisive. A gate, left open, or broken. Historians still debated, but what matters is what followed. Ottoman soldiers entered. At first, only a few. Then more. Then many. And once they were inside, everything changed. The city had been breached. The unthinkable had happened. After more than 1,000 years, Constantinople had fallen. Inside the chaos, the emperor made his final decision. Constantine the 11th Paleologos. He did not run. He did not hide. He removed his imperial insignia, so that no one would recognize him. And he joined the battle, not as an emperor, but as a soldier, fighting, side by side with his men, until the very end. He disappeared in the chaos. His body was never clearly identified, but his fate was certain. He died with the city, and with him, an empire ended. As Ottoman forces spread through Constantinople, the resistance collapsed. Some people fled, others hid, many were captured. The city that had once been the center of an empire was now silent, broken, changed forever. But history does not end with destruction. It transforms. Constantinople did not disappear. It became something new. Under Ottoman rule, it would rise again, as Istanbul, a new center of power, a new chapter. But the fall of Constantinople marked something far greater. It was not just the end of the Byzantine Empire. It was the end of the medieval world, and the beginning of a new era. An era where old walls could no longer guarantee safety, where new weapons changed the balance of power, where history moved forward, whether people were ready or not. And all of it came down to one moment, one city, one final stand.